Yo guys, what is up? 33rd RPM here, back today to talk about another Green Day album. Today, we're reviewing their 2009 release, 21st Century Breakdown. So, this is a really interesting album. After the critical success of American Idiot, Green Day really, the next logical step would be to make another album similar to American Idiot, you would think, if it produced such great results. And that's kind of what they did here. 21st Century Breakdown is Green Day's second, so far, their discography concept album after American Idiot. It follows the story of these two people on the cover here, Christian and Gloria, and kind of another, like, apocalyptic revolution, like, what's where I'm thinking of, sorry. Revolution landscape, let's just go with that. It's interesting because the songs on here sound really grandiose and big at times, but they don't really have enough substantial filler to stick in my head as much as other Green Day songs do, if that makes sense. A lot of flash and not a lot of substance. That's not to say there isn't some really good songs on here. This album is actually split up into acts, so we have Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3, which are titled respectively Heroes and Cons, Charlatans and Saints, and Horseshoes and Hand Grenades. And I think the third act is really where this album just sinks into its groove and works really well for every song on here. But for the middle of this album, I can't say the same thing. I'm just going to talk about these tracks, let you know what I think of them. So we got Song of the Century starts us off here. It's only 30 seconds long, and they do it like 3 other times on here where they just put this little, a varied version of this intro, but it has the same static sounds and kind of the same general tone. There's no like melody, there's no instruments, just Billy Joe singing like it sounds like over like a radio transmission. It's just kind of setting up the tone for this album. Nothing here. First song is 21st Century Breakdown, which is like 5 minutes long and starts with this it sounds like an acoustic guitar just playing one note and just slowly builds into this epic track, talking about this generation of people, born into Nixon, I was raised in hell, talking about how upset these people are with the political state, similar themes to American Idiot. It's a good song. It evolves enough into the second half of it to where the electric guitars come in to really be a standout song on this album. It really has some real power behind the lyrics, and the guitars convey the message that the lyrics are sending, if that makes sense. Third song on here is Know Your Enemy, which was a single, which just starts off with this pounding drum beat. The guitars come in for this cool riff, and this is a really fun song. This is definitely one of those hype-up songs on here. A song that you would burn something down to or start a revolution, similar theme to this album. There's an epic guitar solo on the second half of the song, which reminds me almost of the Boulevard of Broken Dreams guitar solo at the end of that, where it's just like face-meltingly, like that pitch the guitar has. Kind of sounds similar to this, but I really like this song. It's always been a staple at their live concerts. It's definitely a cool, like a pump-up song. It's a good one. We have Viva La Gloria. It's track 4 here, which is the first time we get introduced to one of the characters on here. This is Gloria. She's on the cover there, making out. She's on the back, too. They're making out on the panel, fiery car. It's interesting because it starts off with a piano melody, and then the song cuts after about 20 seconds in and just blasts guitars at you. Lyrics that are just describing this badass woman who's just been through all this stuff, but she keeps pushing forwards to meet potentially like a guy and survive this revolution. It's a good song. It's catchy. It's one of the most catchy songs on here. Although I will say the guitars kind of feel like a wall of noise, but I'm able to overlook it because I really, really like the drum work on here, as well as Mike Dirt's backing vocals. He's always been known for harmonizing really well with Billy Joe, but I think he does it very well here. We have Before the Lobotomy, which was a big hit. I don't know if this was a single, but I know it's well liked now. I really don't like this song. It doesn't do anything for me. It's one of the ballads on here, but I feel like a better example of the ballad would be Last Night on Earth, which is track 7 on here, which is the last song in Act 1 on this album. So yeah, it doesn't do much for me. Christian's Inferno is track 6. And here, it's my same complaint with Viva La Gloria. It just sounds like aggressive sound being pumped into my headphones, and I'm not a fan of metal, so like it's nowhere close to metal, but like I don't like that style of music, so this really doesn't work for me, even though the lyrics are like they're okay. Last Night on Earth, like I said before, is a great ballad. I really like Billy Joe's vocals on this and the pianos, as well as this almost Western sounding guitar that comes in. If that, I don't know if that's a thing, but I just made it a thing. This guitar that comes in to after his verses, which sounds so cool. I really like the song on here. So that's the end of Act 1. Act 2 is called Charlatans and Saints, and this is the act that I like the least on here. We have tracks like East Jesus Nowhere, Peacemaker, and even Murder City that don't really do much for me. They just feel like kind of variations of better Green Day songs, like the diet versions of better Green Day songs. This good tracks on here are Last of the American Girls, Viva La Gloria, Little Girl, and Restless Heart Syndrome. The best being Restless Heart Syndrome, which is like a better version of Before the Lobotomy, I think. I don't know how Green Day fans don't endorse this song more, because I absolutely love it. It's this character Christian here, oh sorry, there's a little glare, talking about how he has this problem with him, and it's like this disease that's weighing him down, and you know, it's like boom, surprise, it's himself. It's like the twist of this song. But what just makes this song for me is after Billy Joe's done all of his verses, there's like a pause and the guitars build up and cut, and then he says, Know Your Enemy, which is a callback to an earlier song on here, and it just explodes into this awesome guitar solo that was like, I was like, wow. The first time I heard it, I wasn't expecting that to come in, be in the song. It was a really, really nice surprise the first time I listened to it, and definitely one that I'll go back and listen to just for the guitar solo, so it's definitely a track worth visiting. Act 3 on here is called Horseshoes and Hand Grenades, and this is where I think this album, like I said, really finds its stride and just kind of settles into a niche of what it wants to be. You have Horseshoes and Hand Grenades, The Static Age, 21 Guns, American Eulogy, and See the Light on here, 5 songs in this act, and they're all awesome. Horseshoes and Hand Grenades starts off with this almost like tribal chant thing as these claps and drums come in, and Billy Joe just says, I'm not fucking around, and this song just explodes into power, and it's a hype anthem. So it's just lyrics about being kicked down, but you just keep pulling yourself back up to fight more. It's an awesome song. I run to this song actually a lot. I really like this song. We have The Static Age, which might be my favorite song, which is my favorite song on this album, and might be one of my favorite Green Day songs of all time on here. You know, some really good lyrics as Billy Joe talks about after a brief guitar solo towards the middle of this. All I want to know is a goddamn thing, not what's in the medicine. I really like that line. There's some also, once again, some really cool drum work by Trey Cool on here, and later in this album, this song is referenced again. It's done really well. I really like also the guitars on here, which are actually sound like they're tuned up. Like, the guitar people, don't kill me if I mess that up, but the solo on here sounds like it's like an octave higher or something than it normally is on Green Day songs, which is a really cool change and sounds really good with the tone of this song and the lyrics. I like that a lot. We have 21 Guns, which was the big single from this. It won some Grammys and it's performed everywhere. It's an awesome song. Like, it's in the same vein as like Boulevard of Broken Dreams and American Idiot and Holiday. Like, if you haven't heard this, I don't know where you're living. But it's been a little overplayed for me. I used to love this song when I was like 10 and I played it every day, so I'm a little burnt out of it, but it's still a really good song. It doesn't take anything away from it. American Eulogy has 2 parts. It's actually split up into 2 parts called Mass Hysteria and Modern World, which are just anthems of tracks. It really sounds like a riot is happening like in your headphones when you're listening to this. It was a little controversial because it was the only time Billy Joe has ever dropped the N-word in one of his songs. But it also has this really cool breakdown in the bridge after the second verse, where he just says, he just screams Christian and Gloria, and then goes like the wow, and just goes in this guitar solo, and it's cool. That breaks down into the second part of this track, Modern World, which is kind of the song. The tempo slows down a little bit, and the guitar like strumming pattern totally changes up, and it sounds so cool for a couple seconds, and then it explodes back into the riff from earlier, and it was a really cool transition that I did that I really liked. And then this song kind of ends with Billy Joe and Mike going back and forth saying, I don't want to live in the modern world, mass hysteria, kind of like going back and forth over them, which ends with the song See the Light in this album, which also again starts with some acoustic chords and just builds up, which calls back to 21st Century Breakdown the way that these two songs start, but I like that it kind of opens and closes this album. And this is also just an anthem of a track, definitely like a fist pumper, or maybe even like a lighter song in at a concert. Good track. All right. Since this video is getting a little long, I'll show you what's inside if you do choose to buy this on vinyl. See what you get. You got the cover here, 21st Century Breakdown. You got the back here. This is all the songs. I've already said them. You got the Christian and Glory on a car. It's flaming. I don't know, something. The inside here, you can only assume this is supposed to be Gloria on the left with all the puzzle pieces coming out of her brain. I'm sorry if I didn't explain the story well in this. I don't really get the story in this one, honestly. I might have to go somewhere else for that. This is obviously Green Day. You got Billy Joe, Trey, and Mike under the class of 13. And then the records. They do come in polylined inner sleeves, which is very nice. I love that. Best way to protect your records. There we go. Side 2. Label looks like that. Got the tracks, Green Day, 21st Century Breakdown. Ah, dropped it. It's cool. It continues this theme of the album onto the label, which I do like. I know some people are big fans like just like the traditional Capitol records and the RCA, but I kind of like it when it's a continuing theme. There is an insert, but it's over there somewhere. It's just a bunch of little boxes that have different themes in it with the lyrics to all the songs. It's cool. But yeah, so this album, for me, doesn't nowhere near as high as American Idiot, but it's not an awful album either. It's definitely not the worst of Green Day's discography. That would be Dose, by the way. I think that this album for me sits at like a 7 out of 10. Definitely a recommendation if you liked American Idiot and want to hear what some B-sides maybe would have sounded like off of it. It's a good listen, especially if you're a Green Day fan. Alright, well thank you very much for watching, listening to my ramblings. I always appreciate if you like Green Day, if you want to subscribe, like, comment, talk about this album, what songs you liked, what songs you didn't like. I'm always open to chat. But until next time, guys, I'm 33rd RPM. I'll catch you on the flip side. Keep on spinning.